The Quran does not claim that the exact name Mohammed or Ahmad is preserved in the Gospels as they exist today. Rather, it recounts what Jesus himself is reported to have said. And remember when Jesus, son of Mary, said, "O children of Israel, verily I am a messenger of God to you, giving glad tidings of a messenger to come after me, whose name shall be Ahmad." Quran, Surah As-Saf 61:6. Now consider this. Jesus, according to the Gospels, taught his disciples daily for nearly 3 years. If he spoke an average of 6,000 words per day, the equivalent of 5 times the length of this very monologue you're hearing now, then over 3 years he would have spoken more than 6 million words, most of them likely worthy of being recorded. Yet the average gospel contains only around 15,750 words, and of those, only about 12,000 words actually describe Jesus' own sayings or actions. That means 98% of what Jesus said and did, if not more, has not been recorded. In fact, had the author of Matthew not included chapter 24, which records Jesus' prophecy about his return, we might not have had any gospel mention of it at all. Even the Gospel of John concludes with a striking admission. And there are also many other things which Jesus did. If they should be written every one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that should be written. John 21:25. So let us be honest. If 98% of his words and acts are missing from the Gospels, not due to malice, but due to human limitation and the long gap in oral transmission, then there is every reason to accept that a saying in which Jesus referred to a future prophet named Ahmad could have easily been lost or forgotten before the earliest gospel was ever written. The absence of this specific name in today's Gospels is not proof of its non-existence. It is a reminder of how little was preserved and how much was meant to be recognized by the Spirit, not merely by the letter. But here's the greater irony. Even the prophecies that did survive, the 2% that were recorded and preserved, have been largely ignored, misinterpreted, or rejected by the vast majority of Christians. Take, for example, the words of Jesus in Matthew 24 and Luke 21, where he spoke explicitly of signs, warnings, and a time frame for his return. These chapters survived the erosion of oral transmission, made it into the canon, and have been read aloud in churches for centuries. Yet, in a stunning turn, 99.9% of Christians today are unaware that Jesus gave a time for his return. Among the remaining 0.1%, the scholars, monks, and clergy who do know that early believers attempted to calculate this return, many have chosen to dismiss those efforts as naive or mistaken. They often point to the Millerite movement of the 1840s in North America, a movement that studied Daniel 8:14 unto 2300 days, and linked it through prophecy to the return of Christ around 1800. These followers, filled with faith, sold their farms and businesses, journeyed toward Mount Carmel in Haifa, and waited, expecting to see Christ returning in the clouds. And when their expectations, based on literal interpretation, were disappointed, the moment was remembered as the great disappointment of 1844. But we must ask, was the disappointment due to the date being wrong, or the expectation being shallow? What if the prophecies were fulfilled, but differently? The same Jesus who said, "I go and I will come again," John 14:3 also said, and he warned, "Behold, I come as a thief." Revelation 16:15. Is it not possible that the return of Christ, like his first coming, arrived in a form unrecognized by the religious authorities of the age? Many Christians today totally misinterpret the concept of return as totally personalized communion with God and boldly say, "Jesus is in me." And they interpret the words of Jesus as the God's kingdom is acutely in them, quoting this verse. "For behold, the kingdom of God is within you." Luke 17:21. That very year, 1844, dismissed by many as a moment of failed prophecy, was in fact the year in which the Bab, the forerunner of Baha'u'llah, publicly declared his mission in Persia. And it was on Mount Carmel that Baha'u'llah would later ascend, fulfilling Isaiah's prophecy and pointing to the future seat of the Lord's house, now the spiritual center of the Baha'i faith. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains. Isaiah 32:2. So perhaps the real great disappointment was not that Christ failed to return, but that he came and we failed to recognize him. Let us be sincere for a moment. Let's step back and be honest with ourselves. If even the clear, explicit prophecies about the return of Jesus, found plainly in the Gospels, are treated by most Christians today as symbolic, irrelevant, or unreliable, then we must ask, why would a more obscure prophecy involving a future messenger with a foreign or unfamiliar name be carefully preserved by the same people who barely preserved what was central? If Jesus' own promise, "I will come again," holds so little weight in modern Christian thought, if his detailed description of the signs of his return in Matthew 24 has been neglected or dismissed, then what reason is there to expect that a prophecy about a coming figure named Ahmad, someone entirely outside the cultural and religious expectation of most gospel transmitters, would have been cherished and passed down with care? In fact, it wouldn't, and this is exactly the Quran's point. It appeals not to textual preservation, but to the spiritual intuition of the sincere. The Quran affirms that many among the people of the book, those endowed with true knowledge and sincerity, have no difficulty recognizing the truth of the revelation. But those with solid knowledge among them, and those with true faith, believe in what has been revealed to you. An-Nisa, 62. Those to whom we gave the book recognize him as they recognize their own sons. Quran 6:20. This is not the language of forensic documentation. It is the language of inner recognition and moral courage. If we have ignored the light, why would we preserve the shadow? The Quran calls us to look not only at texts, but at hearts, to see whether the signs of God are recognized when they appear, even in unexpected form, in unexpected places, and under unexpected names. It says, "O believers, if an evildoer brings you any news, verify it so you do not harm people unknowingly, becoming regretful for what you have done." Al-Hujurat 6.